Hi friends, Mindy here. I have a little process video for you today. One of the questions that I get asked quite a bit is, what do I do with all of my leftover pieces? How do I store them from the devotional kits from By the Will for God? And the answer is I really try to not have to store too much of it. So I want to be able to use up these pieces. And so this week, what I'm going to do, instead of doing Roxy's weekly challenge, because I just wasn't feeling very motivated by that one. I've mentioned in the prior weeks that I may not do all 52 of her challenges. But I did see over on Kate Marshall's channel, which is Inked Paper Art here on YouTube. If you're not following her, you definitely want to go do that. She is doing a series this year called 365 Days of Junk Journal Ideas. This is day 17's idea. She has these tags that are called, she's calling pocket embellished tags. And that's what I'm going to be making today. And she started out with some like double-sided printed cardstock. I'm actually going to obviously use these papers from By the Will for God. I'm trimming them down now into some tag shapes. So these are intended to be large tags that have a pocket down at the bottom and some writing space on the back. So I chose my papers accordingly so that they would work in that way. So I trimmed them down. They're all 6 inches tall and they vary in width from 3 to 4 inches, just kind of depending on the paper, because I don't really do, like, I didn't want, a 7-inch tag. She did make some that were that large, but that is just not really what I wanted to do. So I also use my We Are Memory Keepers corner punch, the one that does like the tag angles. If you don't have that, you could certainly just cut some with your scissors, or create a template from an old credit card, or you could even just use a tag that you have in your stash and do it that way, or you could just totally eyeball it. It's totally fine. I just have the punch and it's very convenient. So the next thing I'm doing, I'm sort of treating this almost like a mass make, and so I'm going through and kind of doing all the steps to each tag all at once. So the first thing I did was cut them down to the sizes that I wanted them to be. And now I'm taking these journaling cards that were left over from By the Well, and I'm sort of assigning them to which one of these pages I feel like they coordinate best with. And then I will trim these down. So you can see on this the large tag that I'm working on here, I'm taking this journaling card and just lining up the points in the gutter part of the trimmer, and I'm trimming them down. And I'm going to do that for every single tag that I'm working with. So this just works out the best. Now, in Kate's video, I think she used some like vintage ledger or vintage book paper to create her pockets, but I wanted to use something that was nice and sturdy. In her video, she took some old paper, some vintage paper, and then she backed it with something else to give it kind of more sturdiness. And so in an effort to obviously use up the pieces from my kit here, but to also have a good sturdy pocket, I'm going to just use my journaling cards for this. And it works out so I don't have to double anything up. Now, I am cutting these down into triangle shaped pockets. You could certainly do square shaped pockets, or rectangle shaped pockets. Triangles are what she did in her video, so that's what I'm doing in this one. Although this particular one here, I am going to trim just a little bit differently because I really didn't want to lose those flowers on the bottom right side of that journaling card. So I'm going to start by just trimming off maybe 1/4 of an inch there at the top. And then I'm going to cut sort of at just an angle, but not like a full triangle. I'm not going corner to corner here. I'm just cutting off a little bit up at the top. And so if you wanted to, you could certainly do a pocket on both sides of these tags. But I'm going to leave the backside for writing space. And you could even double up your triangles if you wanted to create like a double pocket on the front. I just kept mine simple for the single pocket, and really just, doing this according to sort of her template. I did do a few variations in terms of size and also the papers that I'm using, but for the most part, I'm trying to, stay with that inspiration, but also make it something that is mine. So you can kind of see how I'm just trying to decide how I want these pockets to be turned, the orientation of them, which one I think is best. But I'm saving all of those triangle pieces because when I create the actual journals, those triangle pieces can become pockets on the pages of my journals as well. So this one is one that I did just a little bit differently because That paper, I really love that paper, and there's that little scene in there with all the little houses and trees and everything, and I didn't want to cover that up, so I'm just going to trim this part down. I'm actually using another patterned paper for this instead of using a journaling card because I just felt like it matched the best, and I am trimming this so that I will be able to still see that little scene. You do have, the other little houses, but I really just liked that little, almost little neighborhood village one. So you can see I needed to trim this down just a little bit more. Not a problem. This will not be like a super deep pocket, but that's okay as well. So I'm just going to go through here and trim that down, and that will give me everything that I need for all of my pockets, for all of my tags. Now, again, because I'm treating this almost as a mass make, I'm doing all of these things kind of in sections. So the next thing that I'm going to do is go through and ink all of the pockets, and I'm going to ink all of the tags, both front and back. And I'm not going to make you watch me do that, but I did do that to each pocket and each tag. And now I'm going to go back through and glue them. And most of these are glued down just along the two sides. And how I have them oriented just kind of depends on what I think looks best to my eye. You could certainly do a longer, triangle depending on how you wanted to do that. You can see even how I thought I had it. I ended up kind of going back and forth, testing it out, and then changing my mind, and then changing my mind back, and then adding adding just a little bit of glue on the very edge, as close to the edge as I can possibly manage, simply so that I have as much real estate in that pocket as possible. Now this one, because I cut this one a little bit different, I am still only going to do two sides of this, so it almost makes it more like a tuck spot, because that one side is so high, but it will make it so that it's easier to stick things in this pocket, especially because this is one of the more narrow pockets. Now, some of the pockets that I glued on, I lined up all the way flush with the left side or the bottom, and then others I left just a little bit of a border. There was no rhyme or reason to that. It was just however I felt like it looked best at the time. And so even here, you'll see me kind of go back and forth between how I want this one, and then I ended up, changing it from how I thought I was going to glue it down, which is, again, it's fine. Sometimes you just have to go with what looks right at the moment. So you can see even then, just deciding how I want it. So I'm going to set that off to the side and then do this last one. This one is hanging over the edge just a little bit. I didn't do a very good job trimming this one down. So excuse me. So I will have to come back through and just trim off that little bit of an edge there, which no problem, just doing that with my scissors here. You can kind of see that little edge peeking off there. And then, so now that just basically creates the pockets. And so then I went back through all of my leftover ephemera from the kit, and I pulled out the pieces again, just kind of lining them all up that I felt like matched each one of these pockets or tags the best. I did do a little bit of fussy cutting on each of these to kind of get rid of some of that white that was on there. And then I went through and I inked all of that as well. Not going to make you watch me do the fussy cutting and inking either, because that's really like almost the most tedious part of everything that I did. I did leave just slightly more white here on this one. That's the little tree, just because I was doing that like dark blue tree on the dark blue paper. I wanted you to be able to really see it. But one of the things I'm doing is when I'm gluing these down, I'm not gluing all the way to the edges, and I'm really kind of concentrating the glue into the center of these embellishments, simply because when I go to put these in a journal, I may want to add a word or a label or something else to them to kind of further decorate them. And so this will allow me to be able to still tuck things back behind them, and I won't have to worry about trying to lift them or whatever. So I was kind of careful about how I did that as well. And so the next step of everything that I'm doing is putting some toppers on the top of my tags. Now, you could do this in multiple ways. And actually, I'm not even sure if Kate did this to hers. I cannot remember right at the moment. But I went ahead and just pulled some of the fabric that coordinated with this devotional kit as well. I tore it down, and I'm just going through and stapling it to the top of these tags with my tiny attacher. Used a couple different fabrics for that. I like a pull tab. You could certainly even just, punch a hole and run something through, some seam binding or even fabric through it. If you have like an eyelet or in there too, you could do all of that as well. It's just entirely up to you. So you can kind of see how those tags look. Now, I went back through and added some other pieces to them so that I can put these into some journals, and that's what they look like when they're kind of stuffed. So that's it for me. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Also consider joining my Facebook group. The information will be linked in the description. And until next time, bye.